Well, good evening and welcome to St Margaret's School for Girls for the next in the Aberdeen Independent Schools Wellbeing webinar series. I'm Anna Tomlinson, the head at St Margaret's, and I'm absolutely delighted this evening to introduce our guest, Dr Tharaka Gunarathne. Hi there, Dr T.
Hi Anna, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It's great to have you with us tonight. Now, I've been fortunate to work alongside you on a number of occasions, and I've always been struck by your wisdom, by your humanity, and by your ability to convey your considerable expertise in a way that's really practical and accessible to those of us working with you. So tonight, I'm not going to take up any more time because I know our audience, which is considerable in size, are here because they want to benefit from your insights into how we develop greater resilience. And that's just a topic that's close to so many of our hearts a year into this pandemic. But I really look forward to chatting with you as questions come in. And I would just say to our audience, you should be seeing on the right hand of your screen a facility where you can submit questions. So please do that throughout the webinar and we'll try to field those to Dr. T. But for now, over to you.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me. It's a complete privilege and honor to be part of this webinar series. So thank you. Sure. Let's take it away then with a bit of an intro from me. My name is Dr. Tharaka Gunarathne. People call me Dr. T. And yeah, I'm a real medical doctor and a psychiatrist. And I've got high performance expert for leaders in business. Actually, I've taken some time out of medicine to do a lot of work in not necessarily mental health, but mental wealth, and this big topic of resilience. And when Anna asked me to be part of this webinar series, what I was hearing from her was that she just wants this to be really high value for you that are listening in on this. And so we're going to give you some top tips and strategies on resilience, because of course it's so topical everywhere you look, whether it's in the papers or it's on your phone or it's on the news or it's the radio. Resilience is a really, really key thing. It always has been as part of human survival, but ever so more important now because of the context that we live in this pandemic. Now, I know that there are lots of people listening in, and it's fantastic to have you here. And I'm really aware that there are lots of different types of audience members here as well. There'll be teachers, and there'll be parents, and there'll be parents that are teachers, and there might even be some young adults and some older teenagers on this call as well. And so we're going to try and make all of this really relevant to everyone, because we've all got different needs and having different experiences. If you have a pen and a piece of paper, I really recommend that you take a couple of notes, because this is going to just make things a lot more practical for you. Today is about a model that I've called SWANS. It's all about looking after your swans. I'll unpack that in a moment for you, but just a little bit of context first. And that is this word here, resilience. Resilience. I've been looking into this, and I think it's a fascinating word, because the word resilience comes from the words re and salir, and salir means to leap forward, right? To jump forward. And so when we combine re with salir, it's to jump back into place. When we take the word resilience into the engineering world and think of a resilient material, we're really talking about its ability to spring back into shape after it's been compressed. Think about that for a moment, all right? It's all about a material's ability to spring back into shape after it's been compressed. And if you think about it in your life and in my life, whether you are a parent or a young adult, we've been going through some kind of compression, right, over the last year. It might be a sense of feeling really compressed at work, or when we're having to work from home, having to adopt these new normals and these new habits, being a parent and being a worker at the same time. It might be if you're a young adult or an older teenager, it's about, you know, the feeling of compression, dealing with exams, and the rules seem to be changing, and all the adults around me are supposed to know what's going on, but they don't look like they do. And so there are all these different types of pressures and compressions that we go through that affect us in different ways. They can compress our state of mind and our sense of self and our motivation and our energy and our mood, but we can also be compressed from a physical sense. Sometimes our health doesn't hold up as well when we're under stress, or if we're going through a tough time, we might not sleep as well, we might not be adhering to as healthy a diet as we'd want to, and all the rest of it. But the first thing I want to let you know is that resilience is not about avoiding the tension. It's not about avoiding the struggles or the stress. It really is about being able to spring back into shape after you have gone through that. And so if you think about a stress ball, you hold it in your hand and you compress it, you squeeze it down out of shape. Okay, that might be you or me going through a tough week or a tough day. It might be you or me going through a tough project at work. But when you let go of that stress ball, it springs back into shape, and that's a picture of resilience. So I just want to lay that foundation out, because like I said, it's a word that we hear about and a lot, and it means different things to different people. And all of these definitions are helpful, but I really wanted to take you back to this root word, and to let you think about, you know, how can I spring back into shape just that little bit more? Maybe with my physical health, how can I spring back into shape just that little bit more? With how we work as a family at home, how we operate as a family at home, how can we spring back into shape? So anyway, I just want to leave you with that thought, and let me give you another layer of foundation. So with that in mind, what do you do about it? Well, the first thing to note is that not everything, of course, is within our control, or not everything is within our influence. There are things that are happening around us that we want to go a certain way. You know, we want furlough to end, we want lockdown to end, we want the vaccination program to succeed, and we want that to happen quickly, and we want to be able to go back to a new normal or an old normal, or whatever that means for us, so that we can shake hands with people and high-five them and have parties and all that kind of stuff. There's so many things that our brains are being concerned with, and that makes sense. But then the question is, where do you put your energy? Like, where do you put your time, your energy, your thought in your life? Like, how do you still preserve your sense of autonomy? So anyway, quick tool for you right now. With your pen and paper, go ahead and draw out three concentric circles. Three concentric circles, just like this. I hope you can see that. Okay. Three concentric circles, and in the inner circle, you can write the word control. Control on the inner circle. This represents the things that you absolutely have control over. You know, maybe you get to pick what kind of coffee you have in the morning. Yeah, this is something under my control. Okay, you get to choose what you wear for the day. This is an example of something in your control. The outer circle is your eye, and that's influence. Okay, just in that outer circle there, influence. Now, these are the things that you don't have full control over, but you get a vote in it. You have a hand in it. You may be part of a team, and you get to contribute your ideas, and your ideas are taken to fashion a result, right? Okay, so it's family movie time on Saturday afternoon. Maybe it's not up to you to pick, but you get to have a vote because everyone in the family gets to have a vote, let's say, and so this is something within your influence. Okay, but outside of that circle, we have a circle of concern. Okay, circle of concern. That's that outer circle. Okay, so we've got control in the middle, influence, and concern. Now, you maybe know where I'm going with this, but there are things that are not within our control. There are also things that we do not have a vote over. We don't actually have a direct influence over, but we absolutely care about. And we are crossing our fingers and we're hoping and we're praying that things go a certain way, but actually we have no direct influence over it. And what's really helpful when you start to plot out different things that are going on in your life into these circles is that you start to give yourself permission to accept the things that are within your control, the things that you do have a vote in, but also the things that are outside your direct blast radius of action, right? You want the vaccination program to go well. Well, if you aren't part of the leadership behind that, or you aren't actually vaccinating yourself, if you aren't in that category, then this is something in your circle of concern, right? And so this exercise here, by getting cognizant of the different things that are going on in your life, okay? Maybe you're studying, maybe you're working on a project, maybe you're trying to build a business, you're trying to manage things at home, you're having to do all the other things that you've done before, like pay your mortgage and put food on the table and all the different places that we have to spin. Some of those things are within our circle of control, our influence and concern. And by getting cognizant of those different things, allows you to have a sense of acceptance. You can be a little bit more kind to yourself, and you can put your energy and time on the things that you can actually change. So anyway, I just wanted to lay that out as a tool, and this is something you can do yourself. It's something you can do as a family. It's something you can do as a team if you're working together with other people. You know, what are the things that go into these circles for us so we can get clear on where we do put our energy and our time and our focus, and we give ourselves permission to not be responsible for things that are out with our two inner circles. So anyway, resilience, your ability to spring back in shape, control and influence, concern, just a simple tool there to help you get cognizant of where you should put your focus and attention. And with that said, let me now introduce you to this idea. But actually, you know what, before we dive into this, and I know you want to know what SWANS is all about, I wonder, Anna, might this be a good moment just to hit the pause button and just reflect? I mean, just hearing this tool, Anna, does this land well with you? Is this something you can resonate with?
Absolutely, it does. I mean, I think so many of us have struggled, you know, I certainly have, with the things that I can't control during this pandemic. And I think, you know, the idea of taking the time to really think through the things that we can have some influence over, the things that we absolutely can't, and the things that we can control, I think will be really helpful to lots of us. I also liked your explanation of resilience, and you know, that use of the word jump forward, because I think many of us are probably thinking as we journey through this that perhaps actually our resilience, our bouncing back, it might not be into quite the same shape as before, and we might be wanting it to be better than before. You know, our values might be different. You know, things might need to change for us. You know, what do you think of that idea, Dr. T?
Yeah, I think that, you know, it's absolutely true that you cannot fight today's battles with yesterday's strategies. We live in a very different world now than where we were 18 months ago, or even just a year ago. And you're absolutely right. I think that, you know, we talk about a new normal for us collectively as a nation or as a planet. But also we have to think about what our new normals are like as individuals, as families, because we've been through an experience now and we've changed. We've had to go through a process of adaptation, and we've built new ways of thinking and habits. And there's also going to be a period of actually readjustment after this, and that again is another period of change. And so, yeah, I think what your point there is really pertinent. That, you know, manage our expectations. We have to manage our expectations that, you know, springing back into shape can look like something different.
Absolutely, and I think as well, you know, this isn't over yet, and I think there isn't a finite end to this situation that we've been dealing with, and I think that takes some adjusting for us all as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The human mind likes a degree of certainty, right? Like we like to know that tomorrow I know what's in the diary. I know how far it is to the weekend. I want to know that the roof over my head isn't going to give way. We like a degree of certainty so that we can then use our cognitive bandwidth to put our energy into decisions and judgments that matter to us. So we need a degree of certainty. But I guess one of the things that has been threatened for us mentally is this sense of certainty. It's like we're living in a sentence that has no end, right? There's no punctuation. It's like going and I thought we'd finished with lockdown, but there's another one, that can be very trying, and that's not, it's a little bit like going for a run but not being told how long the run is. Well, how do I pace myself? When do I stop to refuel? What do I have to work on? And so we're kind of colouring in as we go along.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think your swans are very timely for lots of us.
Let's get into that then.
Okay.
So look after your swans. Just again with your bit of paper, folks, what you could do is go ahead and write that acronym down, perhaps vertically. This is an acronym. It's actually a dashboard for 5 key areas of life that you can keep your eye on, that you can manage and monitor. And if you do this, it's going to make life a little bit better when it comes to fueling your resilience. And to be honest, there are lots of different models of resilience out there, and they're great models. And you might come across the 3 pillars of resilience, the 5 pillars of resilience, the 7 pillars of resilience. There's lots of pillars of resilience. There are lots of different models and flow charts for resilience that you can follow, and it's absolutely fine to experiment with these and find what works for you. If it's helping you make progress forward and great. But what I've done is I've created this 5 key area dashboard because I think that these areas stitch together quite well to create a package of physical, mental strength that helps. And so let me talk you through this, and perhaps Anna, we can maybe hit the pause button intermittently through this and just reflect as we go. So the acronym, you want to know what it stands for? Well, the S stands for sleep. Okay. This is the first key area of resilience that you want to keep your eye on. Now, sleep, this is for free, right? You don't have to pay money or get a membership to do this properly. You get to do this because your body's wired to do it. But what's really interesting is that sleep is a great healer. It is a period of time where we are able to physically and mentally regenerate. Your body actually releases hormones that promote tissue regeneration. When you go to sleep at night, your hippocampus in your brain does a lot of replaying of what has been through the day to consolidate memories. By getting a good night's sleep, we actually help ourselves regulate our mood better as well. And you know this yourself, right? That when you don't have a good night's sleep, you'll be a bit more grouchy or irritable, or reaction times are down, and all these sort of unsavory effects of not getting that good night's sleep. So this is actually a weapon that we all have, and it's not to say that none of us have any trouble with this or difficulty, and we can, and it's important to get help for that professionally if you need it. But looking after your sleep is a really good starting point to building your resilience. And have a think about this right now. Which circle is looking after your sleep in? Is it in the circle of control? Is it in influence, or is it in concern? Well, it's going to be in control, right? It's going to be in your circle of control. You can shape sleep in a positive way to have a good impact on your resilience. But here's the problem, right? Bed's a funny place. It's the kind of place you never want to go to, but when you're there, you never want to leave, right? And what we know, especially from working from home or living at work, is another way of putting it, is that the boundary between when I'm awake, when I'm not, and it is blurred, the lines are erased a little bit more, and so for many of us our sleep has been eroded. We're always on email, LinkedIn, all the rest of it, and so the discipline around our sleep can go out the window. And there's always an alarm to get up for the next day if we're at work or at school, but here's a top tip. I'll give you one top tip. We could go forever on this, but scheduling your sleep is a really powerful, very simple, low-hanging fruit practical strategy to start to build a better habit. Because one of the keys to good sleep and resilience that comes from good night's sleep is consistency. Consistency when it comes to sleep is key. And I know it's not always possible if you've got an on-call shift or a night shift and things like that. There's a bit of inconsistency there, but where it is possible, consistency is really helpful. And the top tip here is, why not set yourself an alarm to remind you to go to bed, a bedtime alarm, an alarm to remind you to come off your devices, boot down for an hour and get to bed. We're good at setting alarms to get up in the morning, but what about getting to bed? And this is just a simple technique that can help you. And actually, our phones are progressively, and our apps progressively having these get to bed alarms built in. But again, a very low hanging fruit, high leverage option right there. Anna, any thoughts on this? This is the first key domain in SWANS. Look after your sleep. It's simple.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there are many of us, I'm sure, listening who would like to be getting more sleep and would agree with you just how important this is. So a couple of things sort of spring to mind straight away. What about getting to sleep at night, but waking up in the middle of the night and then not able to go back to sleep? Any top tips for that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and that's a common occurrence for many of us. I mean, it's important to say that sleep is very sensitive to lots of different things. It's sensitive to the temperature you set your room at. Your body needs to drop temperature to get that good night's sleep. It's sensitive to your hydration level. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but when you're very, very dehydrated, that can interfere with your sleep. Sleep is also sensitive to your stress level and everything that you're going through throughout your day and all that kind of stuff. And so it really does depend on the cause of not getting a good night's sleep. Actually, another really important one is, you know, too much alcohol too late in the day can interfere with sleep. It interferes the cycles of sleep that we have. We sleep in approximately 90-minute cycles, and it can affect that, and also caffeine intake. So, great question, Anna. I think there are a range of different triggers that can throw off sleep. But for many, sometimes, you know, something as simple as, and I'm going back to digital here, charging your phone away from your bed so you're not picking it up, and because the blue light from your phone screen actually crushes the melatonin hormone that your brain produces to set you up to sleep. So I often suggest that, you know, I work with entrepreneurs and business leaders who are always on. Charge your phone away from your bed so you can't reach it. Come off your phone at least an hour beforehand. Put your phone on night shift mode. And these simple things with just your phone can help you drop off into a better night's sleep. The other thing, of course, we can talk about it if you're interested, is journaling at night before you sleep.
Absolutely. Go on. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, do you ever run into this? You've had a busy day, and actually your head, you feel like in your mind you're literally juggling all the different things that have gone on, and the things
yes, I feel like this. Absolutely.
So I practice and I recommend when I'm doing workshops for business leaders to tuck your day into bed at night. You know, tuck your day into bed. And simple journaling process, Anna. And this is pen on paper, and you can do this. You can grab a diary, and I basically go through 3 different question points. I do a look back, a look now, and a look forward. Right? Yeah. Look back, and I look forward. Would it be good to just go through some of the sub questions in that?
Yeah, go on. I think so.
Yeah. So
I'm writing them down, ready for tonight.
Fine. So, you know, the first question I'll ask myself is, hey, what happened today? So I might just do a quick bullet list of like the chronology. Got up, had a shower, did some exercise, went to work, came back, did dinner, played with the kids, all that kind of stuff, boom. It just helps me defragment the hard disk, as it were, like what on earth happened today? And then the second question I asked myself was, what went well today? Like what were the wins? That's a really, really nice place to go and think about. So that's look back, and then look now. First question I asked myself is, what am I grateful for right now? Yeah, what am I grateful for? Practicing an attitude of gratitude is a key lever in resilience, and there are lots of neurobiological reasons for that, actually. But also, how do I feel right now? How do I feel right now? And we might talk about this a little bit more, but when we actually name emotions, and I've got half a brain sitting on this desk right now, so I have to use it.
Bring it out.
Yeah, okay, fine. So this colored layer that you see here, this is the neocortex, or the top deck of your brain. And it's the thinky part of your brain, the rational thinking bit. It does a lot of other things as well, but let's just stick with that. But then buried down beneath, and you'll have heard of the amygdala. We were talking about that before today. That other structures that are involved in emotional processing are buried deep within the brain, right? So we've got the thinking bit and the emotional bit. I'm oversimplifying, but stick with me. So top deck, bottom deck. When we ask ourselves the question, how do I feel? And if we're able to put names to those emotions, like, you know what? I feel really excited right now because of this deal that I'm sitting on and it's going well. We might close next week. That's exciting. I feel excitement. But I also feel a bit annoyed at that thing that person said to me today. And I'm really worried about my daughter in school. I wonder how she's getting on going back and things like that. If we start to name those different emotions, we literally shoot chemicals from the top deck down into the lower deck, which bring a soothing effect to our hyper-emotional state. Isn't that interesting?
That's really interesting. That's a great tip, isn't it? So we're talking about naming the emotions that have arisen during the day, so that those emotions don't dominate us, perhaps, in the same way they might without that sort of technique.
Exactly. And again, it's about becoming present. It's about becoming mindful. It's becoming aware of the fireworks factory, the gunfire that's going off in the ears. And anyway, so I asked myself that question, how do I feel right now, and just jot down some emotions. So that's look now, and then look forward, or look forward, is a kind of a review of where am I at compared to the, in relation to the goals that I've set for my year. But I'll ask, this is really helpful. I'll ask myself, what is the big banana skin of tomorrow? Like, what is the thing that's going to trip me up tomorrow? Is it a difficult conversation with a member of staff? Is it a difficult email that I have to write? Is it that essay that I've been putting off that, it's stressing me out? Like, what is the thing that's going to catch me out tomorrow? Because if I can identify it, then I'll ask myself the question, well, what's the strategy I need to put in place? So let's just say it's a difficult conversation that I have to have with somebody. So I'll schedule it in. So that may be a strategy, so I know it's actually going to happen. So I'll go, okay, I'm going to have that conversation at 3 o'clock tomorrow. And then after that, I'm going to have a debrief or whatever. I'm going to have I'm going to go out for a walk or something like that. So now we're starting to get cognizant of the things that are stressing us out. And then my last question for going forward is, what's my top priority? Like, if there's one thing that I could do or achieve tomorrow that's, that would make a massive difference, what's that highest impact activity? So by doing this, and how this ties in with sleep, is that we're actually settling a lot of the unconscious feelings, worries, concerns, and things that we're juggling. It's on paper, and I give myself permission to sleep. That's why journaling at night can be useful.
That was a great summary, thank you. And I'm just wondering, would you say then that sort of quietens down or slows down the rumination that probably we, without realising it, can find ourselves caught up in when we're lying in bed?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's important to recognise that the mind is complex. There are more synaptic connections in our brain than there are stars in this galaxy. We're talking about trillions of connections. And so in order to settle an issue such as, I'm not sleeping so well, takes a 360 approach. So it might be journaling and maintaining the temperature control of your room, and coming off your phone, and this and that and this, to really optimize as best as possible. And like I said before, there are conditions that affect sleep that require professional medical attention, and people should be encouraged to seek that. But these are some of the low-hanging fruit, top tip things you can do yourself.
That's really helpful. Just perhaps before we finish up on this topic for now, I wonder, are there any signs that you would say were the point at which somebody should seek medical advice? You know, at what point would you be suggesting that somebody makes an appointment to see their GP?
Yeah, I mean, if it's having an impact on your function, if it's having a functional impairment on life, if it's impeding your ability to do your job, if it's impeding your ability to stay safe, if it's impeding your ability to parent, or it's having a knock-on effect on your internal state, your mood maybe, or how you feel about yourself. If anything's knocking your ability to function and function well and safely, if you can identify that in yourself, that may be an indicator to go get some help. Or if people around you that love you, that know you, that care about you, are saying, hey, look, really worried about you, what's going on? Why, what, you've been late for these calls for the last 3 days in a row. That's never you. What's happening? Oh, you know what? I'm just not sleeping. Okay, let's talk about that. So sometimes it's about people around you that raise that flag for you.
Okay, well, great, thank you. That was a super topic to start with.
Okay, all right, let's move on. So the W in SWANS is looking after your water intake. The human body overall is at least 60% water, and different organs have a different percentage composition of water. And the reason that water, your H2O intake, can help you with resilience is because it optimizes your biological function. It optimizes your ability to be physical, to clear your lactic acid in your muscles. It helps maintain your blood pressure, but of course, it helps you to think. And what's interesting is that some performance studies have shown that we can perform 12 to 14% better on certain cognitive tasks when we're well hydrated compared to when we're drier, which means that our thinking improves, our ability to problem solve and innovate improves, our ability to emotionally regulate improves. We can often be a bit more narky and a bit more short-tempered when we're dehydrated. And sometimes just getting hydrated is all you need just to kind of feel more yourself. You don't even need a Snickers to feel more yourself. You just need a glass of water. So, this is simple. It's common sense, but common sense is not always common practice. So that's why it's just really important to highlight. A top tip, there are so many top tips out there. But here's one that I think is pretty interesting, and that is this mentality of just drink before you're thirsty. Our thirst system is built into us to help us water seek, and that's important. However, if you are only drinking when you are thirsty or very thirsty, it may be that you're already hitting troughs of dehydration along the way. And so the mentality here is make drinking water a habit. Make it a habit, or at least a discipline. You require focus to do that, and you can use apps to track that. Keep a water journal or a water log. There's so many different ways, means, schemes, and games that you can do to do that. But water can be a habit. Again, it's for free, and it can help you with your resilience. Anna, any thoughts on that one? While I take a sip of water.
Absolutely. Well, cheers. Cheers, I'm drinking the water too. I thought it was interesting the link you made with being dehydrated and not sleeping, because I think we can often think that drink too much will be up too many times in the night. I'm just wondering, we all know, and you've reminded us that we shouldn't be drinking too much caffeine, that we should be limiting alcohol. How else could we be getting sufficient hydration? Does it have to be water? Could it be juice? Could it be a fruit tea? Anything else that you would recommend for people who find it difficult to drink so much water?
Yeah, absolutely. There are lots of top tips out there on water intake, and some of them are helpful, and some of them are unfounded. Some of them are slightly maybe based, but everyone's trying something. If you were to, for example, go to the NHS website, they'll give you some tips on water intake, and they'll talk about drinking plain water, which obviously is, it doesn't have a bad impact on your teeth, so that's a benefit of fresh water. They also talk about the value of drinking other fluids that include in that list, even caffeinated drinks, but you have to bear in mind that a cup of tea or coffee with caffeine also acts as a diuretic. It makes you lose water faster as well through urine. So there are these things to take into account. But besides drinking water, you can eat your water. You can actually consume. You can actually eat your water. And there are lots of foods that are water rich. And some people might think, what? There's well, yeah. I mean, if you think about dried pasta, you don't eat dried pasta. You absolutely hydrate the life out of that pasta to be able to eat it. So what's that? That's water. There's water in fresh vegetables and in fruit. So lots of different ways of getting a bit more water.
Fantastic. Well, I think we will all take that tip on board. I'm just thinking though, at the moment, those of us in schools are wearing masks, well, all the time in a secondary school environment. Just now, it's really nice to have it off to be able to do this with you. And I think that's probably making quite a few people more thirsty. And we've certainly been encouraging the girls to keep drinking and to keep hydrated during this period, because I think that mask wearing is adding to that need.
You're absolutely right. And some of that's practical. It's a practical layer of friction in a good habit, right? So the good habit is to drink water regularly, but because we've got a mask on and it's there, it's just an extra barrier to that discourages us to drink. So there's effort in having to take it off and put it back on. A way to get around that is, rather than think about, I need to get my gallons in one go, is just drink a little bit often, and you just have your bottle with you. Some people, they think, well, I have my bottle with me and I still don't drink it. Well, another little practical hack is just hold on to your water bottle. So you might be sitting down writing, but you're writing with your right hand, for example, but just clutch your water bottle in your left hand, so it's already there, and so there's just that little less bit of legwork that you might have to do to actually, I have to take my mask off and my water, so just clutch onto it, just to bring that habit back. Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much.
Yeah, well, you're right, we're probably drinking less with that mask on, aren't we? Okay, so SWANS, look after your sleep, look after your water intake. We're all doing this. Look after your activity. Look after your activity. The bottom line here, of course, is that if we're wanting to boost our resilience, our ability to take it on the chin and spring back into shape in whatever way that looks, then looking after your activity will help, because what is good for the body is good for the brain, right? What's good for your heart is good for your mind, because your cardiovascular system, all those vessels and your arteries, your veins that run right the way throughout your body, they run into your brain as well. And so by looking after your cardiovascular health with maybe a walk or a home workout, or you're on your bike, or you're playing in the garden, throwing and catching, whatever you're doing to move and get your heart rate up, if it's good for your heart, it is good for your brain. And so looking after your activity is a really helpful way to build resilience. I think a lot of people here in this audience know that looking after your activity is good for your health, but it also funnels into an improved sense of resilience, which means that I'm just a little bit stronger at home as a parent, or as a youngster, I'm a little bit stronger at home at school, or in the workplace, etc. Top tip, in this day and age, move more, sit less, right? That's just a mantra, move more, sit less. Right now, Anna, you and I are sitting, and if we've been in meetings all day, we will have been sitting. Interestingly, I was speaking to a friend a couple of weeks ago, and she is a nutrition and weight loss specialist, and she does her calls, some of her phone calls while she gets steps. She goes out for a walk and then she'll do her call as she's moving, so she'll do a walking meeting. But moving more, sitting less, again, your phone can help you track your steps. It may be about scheduling exercise in. I schedule my exercise in the morning, that's just kind of what I do. But also you want to have the ability to get moving throughout the day as well. So anyway, look after your activity. Anna, any thoughts or reflections on that one?
Yeah, I think that's just really lovely the way you've made that connection between what's good for our heart being good for our brain. I don't think I've ever had that connection made quite so explicitly before. And I don't know about other people, but I've certainly felt really fortunate during this time to be living where I do, in an area where it is possible to get out and walk. I mean, that's been actually one of the joys that certainly I've found, and it's so nice that the nights are going to get lighter and people are going to be able to do that sort of in the evenings again, which I think people will appreciate. I'm just thinking about activity in a different way. I'm sorry if this is going to take you off piste a bit here, Dr. T, but I think a lot of people have been very attached to, by necessity, because of school or work, to a computer and or the phone, and they're spending a lot of time doing that. And I've heard of people really benefiting from taking up other hobbies, other practical activities, which have actually really helped them mentally. Have you got any words of wisdom for us on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Activity for a healthy thing, whether it's physical activity or whether it's mental activity. Physical activity, I'm going for a walk. Mental activity, I'm doing a crossword. And so when there is activity, there is exercise and strain. And through that exercise and strain, we build strength, right? So we can build physical muscle, we can build cardiovascular vascular health, but we can also build cognitive strength and cognitive muscle. But in this particular part of the acronym, I am talking about managing physical activity, and what you highlight is very important and actually is buried into the final S in SWANS.
How exciting. Well, we're looking forward to hearing about that quite soon then.
All right, let's move on. So the N in SWANS is to look after your nutrition. If you think about your body as a car, a motor car, for example, how does that car run? Like what's powering it? Now, okay, we're in the world of electric now, and so it's a battery that's been charged up, but that's the point. There's something that's going into the car, into the battery, a flow of electrons, or if you're still on diesel or you're still on petrol, there's fuel, right? And if you get, I wonder how many of us have done this, right? We put the wrong fuel in the car. You've gone on holiday and you've hired a car, or you've just changed your car and you've had to switch from unleaded to diesel or vice versa, and you put the wrong fuel in. What happens? I'll tell you what happens. Your car kangaroos, and then you've got a £200 call-out fee to get your car towed to a garage and drained, right? Okay. So when you get the wrong fuel into the vehicle, it doesn't perform. And what's really interesting is that our bodies are much like that. Okay. And so again, this is something within your circle of control. Okay, you can do this. You can make choices, healthy choices that are going to benefit you physically and therefore funnel into an improved sense of resilience. And so again, friends, this is common sense, not always common practice, particularly when we're stressed. But turning towards plant-based foods, towards our greens, our fruits and vegetables, a Mediterranean diet as well has been shown to have beneficial effects on not only our cardiovascular health and blood pressure, but believe it or not, your cognitive function and your memory capacity. And so eating well can go a long way. But I know how hard it is, right? Because we've got the bananas on the kitchen table and we got the big bag of Doritos in the cupboard. Like, where are you going to go when you're stressed? Well, some healthy people in here are obviously saying, well, I go for the fruit and I wouldn't dare have Doritos in my cupboard. But if you're somewhere in between and actually, you know what, you're like, oh, I would love to eat a bit healthier, but you know, like the chocolate and the crisps and the beer just feels like, it's just something I need right now. Well, yeah, we get it, but maybe rather than like reconvert your entire life, just, you know, marginal gains. Where can you make just a 1%, 2% improvement in your food choices that may benefit you physically and mentally? And what you could do is gradually just like switch out one of your slightly unhealthier choices that you wish you could unhook from with something healthier. So rather than, you know, the bag of crisps every day, maybe a couple of times through the week, I'm going to switch them out with a portion of almonds, maybe, or blueberries or brainberries, as we call them. And so just a nice, easy little hack there, rather than feel like, oh my goodness, it's a big mountain, I can't climb it, so I'm going to stay at the bottom. Why not just take a marginal gains approach and just small steps of change? What could you switch out for something slightly healthier? Instead of the fizzy soda, maybe it's a smoothie, you know? So anyway, there's a top tip on looking after your nutrition. Anna, any thoughts, any reflections?
Well, food's a popular topic for me, so really good to hear that. And I think I'm really liking the fact that, you know, you're encouraging us not to be too self-critical there, and actually, you know, looking for positive things we can do rather than, you know, being too negative about the things that we are eating. Couple of observations. I read somewhere once, and you can tell me that this is a load of rubbish, Dr. T, but that crunchy food was good for processing emotions, which I have to say, I've always used as a slight excuse for eating a few crisps on occasion.
Oh, Anna, so this one's a new one on me. Did they explain a rationale that backs that? Like, why would crunchy foods be beneficial?
It was you're thinking this is funny. It was actually a friend of mine who has had a long career as a counsellor working with teenagers, and yeah, I mean, it was something that she showed me, and the actual process of, you know, the chewing and the crunching was meant to be really effective, but obviously not one that's come across your desk yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet, but I'm not Mr. Google, and so I'm intrigued by that. I wonder, you know, and this is me hypothesizing now, but when you're chewing through crunchy food, you consume that slower or more slowly compared to some other foods. So does that make you more mindful? I don't know if it's to do with engaging the temporalis muscles for chewing, or is it the act of like actual pressure and just
could well be
your emotions into that? I don't know. That's one of me. I need to look into that. Crunchy
okay, well, but that might be a top tip from this side of the table. But the nation, of course, has absolutely loved baking during this period. And, you know, we've seen in school fantastic pictures of things that the girls have cooked as part of sort of initiatives and competitions. And it's been really good, hasn't it, to see people engaging with, you know, making their own food and paying attention to actually cooking from scratch in that way. I'd say that's been a positive outcome for some people of time spent at home.
There's so many benefits in that. I mean, it's creative. You become more mindful of the process behind food rather than just buying something in a healthy packet. You're kind of contributing to it, and actually, you know, there's something very therapeutic about building something yourself. And so when you're doing that, that in itself can be enjoyable. Also, family time and all the rest of it. So there are lots of pros to preparing your own food and baking and things like that.
Yeah, I've got a nice question come in here. I'm guessing from a senior pupil who's wondering if you could recommend any good snacks to be having when working, revising, doing that sort of thing. Anything that you would recommend?
Yeah, so I mentioned it before. The almonds are high up on my list personally. Blueberries as well, and they actually make the cut for certain evidence-based diets that are good for cognitive function. So if you're revising and you kind of want to have a feel-good factor about actually even the snacks that I'm munching on right now are have been shown to have some benefit to how I think and remember stuff. Then they're pretty good. Again, leafy greens come high on the list. I don't expect you to be sitting down doing calculus with an iceberg lettuce on your desk munching that. But there are there are ways to get bits of fruit and other things that you can snack on, celery sticks, things like that. But yeah, if you look up the Mind diet, an expansion of the different food types that have an evidence base behind supporting cognitive function and mental sharpness.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good.
Are we going to carry on?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
This is the S in SWANS, and this is so important. It's manage your stress. Manage your stress. The reason that I've put an S on the end of SWANS is because now you'll know this, for those of you who are listening in, it's true in your life and in my life that when we are more stressed, we're not our best selves, right? When we are more stressed, mentally, we're not our best selves, but physically, we're not our best selves. Our cortisol level, our stress hormone, is higher. Our testosterone and estrogen levels that help us with confidence drop as well. Again, stress, if you think about it, when it's too high, starts to affect the S, the W, the A, and the N in SWANS. When you're stressed, your sleep can go out the window. When you're overly stressed, your hydration habit can go out the window. When you're overly stressed, we're sedentary. We're not as active as we want to. We don't engage in the exercise. We lose our motivation. And when we're overly stressed, and we know this to be true, our dietary habits can go out the window. And it's, I'm on my third fudge chocolate cake this morning. I think many of us can relate with that. And so management of stress is a really important, it's a key component actually to pinning all of this together. And Anna, we can talk. We can do it. We can do a series of seminars on stress management. But my just one top tip out of 1,000 different top tips that I could share is just actually the power of breathing. What's really interesting is when you practice deep breathing, you actually tap the brake pedal in your body. Your body has an accelerator pedal and a brake pedal. The accelerator pedal is the sympathetic nervous system. It speeds everything up. It gears you up for fight or flight. But the parasympathetic system, the brake pedal, is tapped. You can tap that brake pedal with deep breathing and it slows things down. And I thought, Anna, it would be quite nice if I just took everyone through one breathing exercise just to land things. How does that sound?
Here I am. That sounds absolutely great. We'd really like that.
So great, a breathing technique. So I'm a professional speaker and I love doing I love delivering talks and workshops, but even though I'm used to it and I love it, I can sometimes still feel my body going overdrive. I'm like, okay, it's kicking off again. So what I'll do is I'll do a box breathing technique, and it's really simple. It's for free. You can do it pretty much anywhere. And basically, it's a breathing cycle that goes in the shape of a box. So as I raise my hand, we just take a big breath in, Anna, and fill our lungs up, and we breathe through the nose. Okay, so we're going to take a big breath in through the nose, and then we're going to hold our breath on the horizontal, and then we're going to empty our lungs out through the mouth. Big breath out.
Okay.
And hold. We'll go around that. Okay.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Who are following? I mean, at home can follow along. We just do this together. So we're going to sit up straight, and we're going to do this to increase our focus. So All together, big breath in through the nose and in. And hold. And out through the mouth. And hold. And in. And hold. And out. And hold. And in. And hold. And out. And hold. And breathe normally.
Oh, thanks very much indeed. And if you were doing that for yourself, would you be actually drawing the box shape like that?
I absolutely do that. I do that.
Yeah.
There are lots of different breathing techniques out there. This is the one I love, box breathing. So I create that box. And I just become more aware of that. There are times where I can't do that. But you know, just going through that breathing cycle, I find just taps the brake pedal a little bit and takes the edge off things.
Yeah, I think that's a really great one. With our fourth years, we do an introduction to mindfulness course. They've had tastes of that earlier on in school. Mindfulness in schools, it's a really growing phenomenon, isn't it? Have you got any thoughts on that?
I think it's really helpful, and there's a strong scientific evidence base behind it, and mindfulness has been shown to literally change you know, our brains light up in head scanners depending on how active they are in different regions, and it changes that in noticeable ways that are healthy. And so learning to find stillness in a storm is really, really important, and to be done at a young age is really key, isn't it? Because you know, it kind of sets the trajectory in which we continue to grow. And if being present is one of the skills we learn early on, this is going to fuel good emotional intelligence and emotional regulation.
Yeah, absolutely. And that being present, I suppose, is what I was hinting at when I was talking about other types of activities. You know, so for anybody who, you know, might be listening to this while they're, you know, doing some sort of craft or knitting, or people who, you know, use art as a way of being present. You know, it was lovely. And thank you to those girls from St Margaret's who provided the music before the webinar started. You know, in my life, music is something that I've found a way to be mindful and present in as well. And would you be encouraging all of us to do things like this?
I think that if you feel benefit from it, then go for it. It's definitely worth a try. And there, like I said, there's enough evidence to back this, that this is it's, you know, it's not just a kind of, it's not a fuddy-duddy experience. It's you know, it's an evidence-based technique that can help you know, calm your state of mind and improve your well-being. But yeah, you know, Anna, you're making me think of like the real challenge that we have with multitasking. I don't know if you feel like you're a bit of a multitasker sometimes, but I think many of us feel like we're multitasking because there's so many demands that are flying in at us. We got a phone call, we got an email, we got fires to put out at work and things like that. Again, another quick top tip for the audience is that actually, technically, there's no such thing as multitasking. There's only such a thing as task switching, which means, coming back to this guy here, your brain, your brain has a finite sort of cognitive bandwidth, and it puts its focus on one thing. And then when you are, I don't know if you've ever done the kind of, I'm doing an email and I'm doing something else, I'm on the phone or whatever. So what your brain is doing is it concentrates on email, then the phone, then email, then the phone, email, phone, and it just tries to oscillate between the two tasks that creates an illusion that you're multitasking, when actually you're single tasking and task switching. But what's interesting is that in high performance studies, behavioral studies, multitasking is a bit of a myth, and it doesn't actually increase your efficiency, it decreases it. And you actually save more time by doing task A, then task B. But listening to a podcast and doing the dishes, they're very different cognitive activities. You can probably get away with something like that.
Yeah. So what you're talking about then is focus, isn't it? Actually, the mind, the body being in a state to be able to focus on one thing at once. And I think quite a lot of what you've shared with us tonight would contribute to be able to have greater focus when that's necessary. And actually, it's a more fulfilling experience generally, isn't it, to be able to operate like that some of the time. I mean, it isn't possible all of the time, but it can be really constructive some of the time.
Yeah. And do you think that FOMO kicks in, fear of missing out, sometimes kicks in when, we're trying to single task and do one thing at a time, but because there are so many different demands, we kind of get a bit anxious that we're falling behind, and so we can kind of get caught back into this pattern of multitasking. Have you kind of seen that happening?
I've seen it happen, and I've experienced it happening, and email is a good example of that, isn't it? You stop the piece of writing you're doing or the thing that actually needs to be done to check that nothing else more significant has come into the email. I mean, that's just a daily experience. Add to that phones, social media, and a whole range of other, distractions. And, absolutely, I think lots of us are living like that. So, I mean, what you're really encouraging us to do, I think, is to take control of some of these things and actually to be more aware of what we're doing, to name what we're doing, and to actually perhaps put boundaries in place and make decisions about what works for us at different times. But would that be right? Absolutely. And I think there's something really empowering to know that you still have a degree of autonomy in a world that feels very dysautonomous, because there's so much out with my control that's happening, and I'm now, it's really easy for us to sort of almost adopt a victim mentality. Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, we start to accept that life throws things at us, and whatever you throw at me today is my lot, and then we forget about the bit of ourselves that actually can create and can make an impact and can bring joy to other people and all that kind of stuff. And so it's about taking back control, and again, let's be practical. So we want to create value for people out there. Get control of your calendar, folks. If you can, and sometimes that just looks like booking things in that you're doing anyway, but then you start to create boundaries and discipline around it. So, for example, Anna, the email thing, when I'm doing productivity with people in business, for some, they find it helpful to book in their email sprints. So, I'm going to do a sprint in the morning, sprint mid-morning, one after lunch, and then I'm going to do a zero inbox closure sprint last 20 minutes of the day. And then they answer the emails only in those times. They do not the times between. Now, that isn't possible for every line of work, but every little helps. And so, booking things in that happen anyway can help bring back control. Yeah, that's a really helpful tip. The word kindness came into my head whilst I was listening to you there. And, this is about kindness to ourselves, isn't it? And actually, by taking control, we're actually being kind to ourselves. I'm also thinking, though, about the kindness that helps us to show to others, because that in itself, I think research has shown, is produces really good feelings and well-being for the person who's giving the kindness. Have you got any thoughts on that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Being kind to yourself is something that I'm still working on. And listen, Anna, if you crack the code, will you let me know? Because it feels like a journey. But being kind to yourself is a bit of a brain bender for some people. It was for me when I first came across this concept years ago. But I guess the way that I kind of got my head around this was, I might find myself up worrying about something or working late. It's 2 a.m. I'm not giving myself a break. And I just think to myself, if I walked in on a friend doing that, what would I say? I say, hey, look, you really need a break. Just get to sleep. This can take care of itself tomorrow. That's what I would say. And I'd encourage my friends to do that. But I'm not doing that myself. So what I do then is I literally talk to myself as if I'm another person, as if I'm that friend. And I kind of say, hey, listen, you need to take a break here. This can take care of itself in the morning. And just by having that sort of self-talk helps understand a little bit about being kind to myself. And I know that other people benefited from that way of thinking about it as well. But yeah, be kind to yourself. And that can sometimes include not beating yourself up when you're finding stuff hard, not beating yourself up when you're hitting disappointment, not beating yourself up when actually you're stressed to the hilt at home with your kids. You know, like, you are human, you're a parent, you are human, you know. When we escalate, when we have those stressful moments, it's important to go, number one, okay, just gonna be kind to myself right now. I'm a human being. This happens to everyone. It's not just me. And you know, I'm not going to become extra stressed about the fact that I'm becoming stressed. And all the other sort of techniques that we teach, you know, taking a moment out and then connect, communicate, all that kind of stuff. You're right. Yeah. Kindness, important.
That's another example that you've given there of actually naming what's going on. And as opposed, and I think, you know, we're all on a journey to be able to do that, aren't we? And, you know, I'm just getting a sense from some of the comments coming in that people would really welcome any recommendations you have for any reading that can be done in this area. And perhaps that's something that you and I can talk about afterwards, and we could share some recommendations. Would that be all right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Fantastic. I'm going to just bring in a few other questions, if that's okay, Dr. T, that have come in. You've obviously given people a lot to think about and some super strategies.
Great.
Back to food, and just a question about whether fish is good for the brain.
Yeah, so again, going back to the mind diet, fish makes the cut. So oily fish, omega-3, makes the cut for evidence-based foods that contribute to better mental function and better memory function as well. And so a bit of salmon, for example, is on the menu on the mind diet.
Sorry, it's on the menu. On Monday, did you say?
Yeah, it's on the menu on the mind diet. You know,
on the mind diet. Sorry, I thought you were telling me it was on your menu on Monday. Sounds good to me.
It should be.
Absolutely. I've got a comment here. I think that which I'm sure you would agree with, that where resilience is concerned, this does mean different things to different people, doesn't it? And,
yes.
And what one person would feel is within their control, you know, might be different for somebody else. So I don't think we'd want anybody listening to this to feel that this is a one size fits all. This is very much, I think, about gaining more self-awareness, more understanding of ourselves, and, you know, just incrementally finding things, those marginal gains you spoke about that we can do to help and support ourselves. And probably comparing ourselves to others it isn't going to help us in this situation, although that's really difficult, I think, for most of us most of the time, and probably even more so in times of adversity.
What a great point you make there, Anna. For all of these tools, the word resilience, the circles of control, influence, and concern, and even SWANS, it's really important that, you know, for those of you who are listening in, to project your own meaning into these models. These models are containers for ideas, so that you can color in and fill it in with you know, the context of your life, what works for you, because we're all in different boats, right? We're in the same sea, but in different boats. And so it's a good point, Anna, about, you know, not getting caught in the comparison trap, and being okay with the fact that, you know, resilience means different things to different people, and there are different priorities in our resilience profile compared to my next door neighbor and my friend in my class, etc., etc.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think this has just been a really fantastic session. I've learned so much, and I didn't know what you were going to say before this started. And, you know, as ever, you brought such energy and such interest to us, and, you know, your expertise around the brain and the mind, you know, are huge. And I'm sure that I can see from the comments coming in that our audience have found this just as useful and just as stimulating as I have, and we're probably all going away with, you know, a few things that we're going to try out for ourselves, whether that's the journaling, whether it's making, you know, a small change in tomorrow's snacks, making sure we get to bed at that specific time tonight. All really practical, all really human. And, you know, thank you so much. You've given us a huge amount tonight. It's been such good fun as well to be talking to you. Have you enjoyed it? Have you enjoyed it?
Oh, absolutely. It's been great fun. It's been absolutely fantastic, and to be with everyone here in this call has been great. Thank you so much, Anna.
Well, thank you for being with us, and I'd like to say thank you as well to the audience who've obviously put forward such great questions and points, and to my colleagues in the other independent schools. We've been working together to present this series, and pleased to say that there's still one to go, and that is going to be hosted by Aberdeen School on the 30th of March at 7:30, and Astrid White, who is CEO of Mental Health Aberdeen, she's going to be speaking about family wellbeing. So I'm sure that's going to be another really interesting and useful session, and I look forward to tuning into that very much indeed. So once again, from all of us at St Margaret's and everybody in our audience, thanks very much to Dr T, and I hope everybody has a really enjoyable rest of the evening. Thank you.
Thanks.